Go away! You're not invited, my son-in-law yelled when I, the owner of the house, tried to sit down at the Christmas table that I had set for everyone. Forgetting that he lives in my house at my expense, he kicked me out like a servant. I calmly got up, walked to the front door, and took a step that shocked the guests and turned the lives of the traders upside down. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. The smell of roasting turkey filled the kitchen before sunrise. I stood at the counter, hands working through the stuffing mixture, sage, onions, celery, while darkness pressed against the window above the sink. Something felt wrong about this Christmas. The house was mine, paid off in 2011, but lately it felt like I was visiting someone else's life. I'd been cooking since 5. The turkey, 20 pounds, glistened in the oven. Cranberry sauce simmered on the back burner. Roasted vegetables waited for their turn. My hands moved efficiently despite the arthritis, muscle memory from decades of holiday meals. Nobody had offered to help. Nobody had even come downstairs yet. I remembered Amanda's phone call 3 years ago. I'd been chopping carrots when it came through, just like I was chopping them now. Dad, we need help. Michael's company. It's gone. Just for a week or two until we figure things out. Come home, sweetheart. Stay as long as you need. They'd arrived with 3 suitcases and hollow eyes. Sterling construction had collapsed overnight. Bad investments, worse partners. Amanda had hugged me tight in this very kitchen, crying into my shoulder. Thank you, Dad. We'll get back on our feet soon. Michael had shaken my hand firmly, his grip desperate. You're saving our lives, Waldo. I opened the china cabinet, pulling out her plates. My wife's collection, the good ones we'd bought together in 1995. The memory shifted. 6 months after they'd moved in, I was setting the same table when Michael had walked through. Waldo, you really should update this place. The carpets, the furniture, it's all very dated. I like it this way. It's comfortable. He'd laughed, that patronizing sound I'd hear 1,000 more times. Comfortable for you, maybe, but we have friends coming over. I folded the napkins now, creasing them into triangles. Another memory surfaced. The check I'd written. $45,000 to save them from creditors. I still had the canceled check in my filing cabinet, dated February 2022. Amanda had cried with relief. You're saving our lives, Waldo. Michael had clasped both my hands. We'll pay you back for everything. The months had passed like water through a sieve. Month 12, I'd been watching the evening news when Michael took the remote from my hand. I was watching that game, old man. Month 18, I'd overheard Amanda on her phone in the hallway. Yeah, we're stuck living with my dad. It's suffocating. Recent weeks had brought new indignities. Being told to keep it down past 9, having my mail opened and sorted, being asked to give them space in my own living room. The doorbell rang at 3. I heard Michael's voice booming in the entryway, playing host. Jason, Melissa, come in, come in. I stayed in the kitchen, basting the turkey one final time. Through the doorway, I watched them arrive. Jason, loud and confident, worked in tech. Melissa, his wife, had that look of someone perpetually judging her surroundings. David came next, Michael's former business associate, then 4 others whose names I'd learn later. Thanks for having us, Mike. Jason's handshake was enthusiastic. I stepped into the dining room, extending my hand. Welcome to my... Michael's arm wrapped around Jason's shoulders, steering him away. Let me show you where the drinks are. Amanda made her famous eggnog. His eyes flicked toward me, dismissive. That's just Amanda's dad. He's staying with us for the holidays. Staying with us. The words echoed. The inversion was complete. I retreated to the kitchen. Through the doorway, I watched Michael pour my wine into my glasses, gesturing expansively about our plans for renovating the dining room. Amanda floated past, playing hostess, avoiding my eyes entirely. Jenny found me checking the oven temperature. My 15-year-old granddaughter leaned close, whispering, Grandpa, why don't you tell them? Tell them this is your house. I patted her hand. Sometimes, Jenny, you let people reveal themselves. Truth has a way of coming out. But it's not fair. I managed to smile. No, it's not. The turkey emerged golden and perfect. 20 pounds of effort. I carried it through on the platter, every eye turning to admire the centerpiece. But they were looking at Michael. Mike, this looks incredible. You've outdone yourself. Michael accepted the praise with a modest nod. Thanks, man. Been working on it all day. I stood in the doorway, holding the empty platter, my jaw tight. Amanda set out dishes, arranging them just so. The perfect hostess in someone else's home. Mine. Everyone, let's sit, Michael gestured to the table. I'd set it for 12. 12 places, 12 napkins, 12 settings of china. As they took their seats, I realized what they'd done. The arrangement left no clear place for me. I stood at the edge of my own dining room, watching strangers fill my table. I'd sat at the head of this table for 26 years, bought it in 1998, carried it through that door with my own hands, refinished it twice, fed my family on it through births and deaths and everything between. I took a step forward. My hand reached for the chair back, the chair where I'd always sat. Every eye in the room tracked the movement. My fingers closed around the wooden chair back. I began to pull it out. The scraping sound of legs against hardwood cut through the dinner chatter like a blade. Conversations died. Forks paused mid-air. I was lowering myself to sit when Michael's palms slammed against the table. Both hands flat. The impact made glasses jump. A napkin fluttered to the floor. He rocketed upward, chair scraping harsh behind him. "Get out!" His voice filled the room. "You're not invited. This is our family table." I stopped moving, halfway into sitting, frozen. Then I reversed the motion, standing fully upright. My voice came out quiet, calm. "Michael, did you forget whose house we're in?" The question hung there. Around the table, reactions bloomed like flowers in stop motion. Jason's fork stopped, halfway to his mouth. Turkey suspended. Melissa's eyes went wide, darting between Michael's red face and my calm one. David studied his plate with sudden intensity. Other guests froze mid-motion, a photograph of discomfort. Jenny half rose from her chair. "Dad, stop!" "Not now, Jennifer." Michael's voice had edges. "This doesn't concern you." "But, Grandpa?" "I said not now." Michael's face was crimson, neck veins visible. He leaned forward, palms still planted on my table. "In the house where we live. You're here on our terms, old man. Be grateful we tolerate you. Now go to the kitchen, or better yet, go for a walk. Adults are celebrating." "We tolerate you." The phrase was a knife between ribs. Silence dropped like a curtain. 5 seconds. 10. 15. Someone's breathing was audible. A clock ticked in the hallway. Distant traffic hummed beyond the walls. Michael gestured toward the kitchen, then toward the front door, movements sharp with dismissal, treating me like a servant or child. Amanda stared at her plate, wouldn't meet anyone's eyes. Her silence was its own betrayal, worse than Michael's words. Something settled in my chest. Not peace, clarity. I'd been making excuses for 3 years. They were struggling. They needed time. Family helps family. But this wasn't family anymore. These were strangers occupying my space, erasing my existence one dinner party at a time. I heard my wife's voice from 20 years back, fierce and clear. "Never let anyone make you small in your own home." I turned from the table, not hurried, not slow, deliberate. My footsteps echoed across the hardwood floor. I'd refinished myself in 2008, through the dining room archway, past the furniture I'd chosen, the photos I'd hung. Michael smirked behind me. I could feel it without looking. He thought I was complying, slinking away embarrassed. I stopped at the front door, placed my hand on the brass knob I'd installed 15 years ago, turned it, pulled. The heavy oak door swung open and December air rushed in, cold and clean and shocking. 40 degrees, maybe less. The rectangle of darkness outside seemed to expand, swallowing the warm yellow light from inside. I stood in the doorway and turned to face the room. "Everyone who is currently in this house and is not its owner, you have 5 minutes to leave. This is my house. I bought it in 1998. Michael, Amanda, take your things and go. Right now." Michael laughed, actually laughed, the sound harsh and disbelieving. "You're joking." But the guests were already standing, reaching for coats draped over chair backs, mumbling apologies. Jason squeezed Michael's shoulder. "Man, we should probably go." "No, sit down. He's bluffing. Ignore him." Melissa was already at the door, coat on. "Jason, come on. This is a family thing." "Yeah, we'll call you later." Jason followed his wife. They fled, all of them within 90 seconds. David nodded awkwardly as he passed. Thanks for, sorry. The others filed out in a stream of uncomfortable silence, avoiding eye contact. The door stayed open, cold wind pouring through. Then it was just the four of us. Michael remained standing at the table, but his confidence had cracks. You can't just kick us out. We live here. I stayed at the door, December wind at my back. You live here as my guest. Guess I'm now asking to leave. Amanda finally spoke, her voice breaking. Dad, please, this is insane. I looked at my daughter. Our eyes met for the first time that night. Amanda, you have a choice. Make it. We're not going anywhere. Michael's defiance was returning. You're a crazy old man. I reached into my right pocket, pulled out my smartphone. My thumb wasn't clumsy. I'd taught myself technology, stayed current. I unlocked the screen, navigated to the phone app. Michael's face went from red to white faster than a traffic light. Then I'm calling the police. You wouldn't. But his voice had no conviction. My thumb moved deliberately across the screen. 9. Pressed the digit. 1. Pressed again. 1. I lifted the phone to my ear. Michael stood frozen at my table, next to my china, in my dining room. Amanda had both hands over her mouth. Jenny watched everything with wide eyes. The line began to ring. My thumb completed the motion. The final digit pressed. The phone screen lit up. Calling emergency services. 1 ring. 2. A click. 911, what's your emergency? Michael laughed. Not nervous laughter, genuine mockery. The old man's completely lost it. Sit down, Waldo. Stop embarrassing yourself. I kept my eyes on the open door, cold December air rushing past me. Yes, I need assistance. There are people in my home who are refusing to leave after I've asked them to depart. The address is 2847 Maple Grove Drive, in the Land Park District. Amanda's laugh was shakier, uncertain. She was reading the room better than her husband. Are you in danger, sir? Are the individuals threatening you? No immediate danger, but they refuse to leave my property. I am the sole owner of this residence. Officers are being dispatched. Estimated arrival 12 minutes. Please stay on the line if you feel unsafe. I'll be fine. Thank you. The click of the call ending was the loudest sound in the house. Michael's laughter died like someone had cut its throat. The smugness melted off his face like wax near a flame. Color drained from red to white in seconds. Amanda screamed. Not words at first, just sound. Pure panic made audible. Then words came. Dad, what are you doing? This is us. Your family. Jenny started crying. Quiet tears, trying to make herself invisible in the corner. Michael's aggression returned, desperate now. You can't do this. This is our home. We have rights. I remained at the open door, December wind at my back. This is my home. You have exactly 12 minutes to gather what you can carry and leave, or explain to the police why you're trespassing. That word, trespassing. It made everything real. Michael looked around as if seeing the house for the first time. Really seeing it. Whose house was this? Dad, please, we have nowhere to go. It's Christmas night. Amanda's voice broke on the last word. That's why I'm giving you time to pack. I could have had you removed with nothing. I felt the pull of guilt, felt it hook into my chest. But then I remembered, be grateful we tolerate you. Michael's words from an hour ago. The memory hardened my resolve like steel cooling. The remaining guests, Jason, Melissa, David, who'd stayed hoping to mediate, grabbed coats with fumbling hands. Jason squeezed Michael's shoulder. Man, call me tomorrow. We'll figure this out. But his eyes said he wasn't getting involved. Melissa touched Amanda's arm. Do you need... we could... She didn't finish the offer. Within 3 minutes, they were gone. All of them. Their rapid departure was a verdict rendered without words. They sided with the homeowner. Now just family remained. Michael snapped into action. Amanda, pack bags. We're not staying here with a crazy person anyway. His words were defiant, but his movements betrayed panic. They rushed upstairs. I heard footsteps overhead, drawers slamming, things thrown into bags. Jenny appeared with one small backpack. Tears streaming, she approached me slowly. Grandpa, I'm sorry. My voice gentled for the first time. You have nothing to apologize for, sweetheart. This isn't right. They shouldn't have treated you that way. No, but it's necessary to set things right. Flashing red and blue lights painted the walls through the front windows. Two officers approached. Rodriguez, male, 40s, with the bearing of someone who'd seen everything twice. And Park, female, 30s, efficient and sharp-eyed. "Sir, you called about a trespassing situation?" Rodriguez's voice was professional. "Yes, officer. I'm Waldo Ross, owner of this property. These individuals were guests. I've asked them to leave. They're refusing. May I see identification and proof of ownership?" I had my driver's license ready. "The deed is in my office. One moment." I walked to my study, opened the second drawer of my filing cabinet, pulled out the manila folder labeled Property Documents. My hands were steady. I'd prepared for this moment without knowing I was preparing. The document was clear. Property purchased. April 1998. Sole owner, Waldo Ross. Officer Park studied it carefully. "And there's no lease agreement?" "No lease. They were family staying temporarily. That arrangement has ended." Michael and Amanda descended the stairs with hastily packed bags. They saw the police and froze. Michael tried to explain, words tumbling out. "Officers, this is a family misunderstanding. He's my father-in-law. We live here. This is our home, too." Rodriguez's expression didn't change. "Do you have documentation showing legal tenancy? Lease agreement? Rental receipts?" "No, but we've lived here 3 years. We have rights. Look up squatters' rights, or adverse possession." Officer Park was almost sympathetic. "Sir, adverse possession requires specific legal conditions and typically a much longer time frame. This is private property. The owner is asking you to leave." "But we're family," Amanda's voice cracked. Rodriguez looked at me. "Sir, do you want these individuals removed from the property?" I looked at Amanda, saw my daughter, saw 3 years of disrespect, of erasure, of being made small in my own home. "Yes, officer, I want them to leave. They don't have permission to be here." "You need to vacate the premises now," Rodriguez said to them. "Take what you have with you. You can arrange to collect remaining belongings later through civil means." Michael's face twisted with rage and humiliation. Amanda clutched her bag, mascara running in black tracks down her cheeks. Jenny stood small and scared, holding her single backpack. They filed past me. Michael hissed as he passed, voice low and venomous. "You'll regret this, old man." "I regret many things, Michael. This isn't one of them." They moved down the walkway toward the street, police car lights still flashing. I could see neighbors' curtains twitching in windows up and down the block. Michael turned back, mouth opening to shout something. "Keep moving, sir." Rodriguez's voice was firm. They kept moving. The night passed in fragments. I didn't sleep well, not from regret, but from the unfamiliar quiet. No footsteps above my head. No midnight arguments through the walls. No shower running at 6 a.m. The silence was louder than noise had ever been. I woke at dawn, the house mine again. I walked through each room systematically. Master bedroom to hallway to the guest rooms where they'd stayed. Bathroom, kitchen, living room, dining room. Small details revealed their absence. Jenny's hairbrush gone from the bathroom counter. Michael's construction magazines missing from the living room coffee table. Amanda's coffee mug not in the sink. But the dining room table still held the abandoned Christmas dinner. Turkey cold and congealing. Vegetables untouched. The plates I'd set so carefully now monuments to waste. I didn't clean yet. Just observed. The house told last night's story in physical language. At 8, I made my first decision. The locks had to change. I didn't trust Michael not to return, use his key, take whatever he wanted. I called Sacramento, lock and key. "I need all exterior locks changed, today if possible." "We can be there by 10. 3 doors, emergency service, that's $450 total." "Do it." I used the waiting time productively. In my study, I pulled out my personal ledger. I'd been tracking everything, an insurance man's habit. Numbers don't lie, and I wanted the truth in black ink. The memories came with the entries. March 2022. The first entry, $45,000. Sterling construction debt repayment. I remembered that phone call, Amanda crying. "Dad, they're going to take everything." Michael desperate, but trying to maintain dignity. "You're a lifesaver, Waldo." Not Dad, never Dad, always Waldo. I'd written the check that same day. Michael had promised repayment within 2 years, with interest. The check cleared. The creditors backed off. The promise evaporated. July 2022. $8,000. Bankruptcy legal fees, Morrison and Associates. Michael couldn't afford the lawyer to properly dissolve his company. I paid directly. Sat in that downtown waiting room while he signed papers. Amanda afterwards. Thank you, Daddy. She'd called me Daddy then, but the smaller costs added up worse than the large ones. I flipped through monthly expenses. Electricity jumped from $150 to $300 after they moved in. Water from $50 to $130. Gas, internet, groceries, all climbing. I fed 4 people, not one. Approximately $1,500 extra monthly, times 36 months, roughly $54,000 in living expenses, plus the documented cash, $53,000. Total somewhere between $107,000 and $114,000. I rounded it in my mind to $78,000 documented cash and $30,000 in living expenses. Either way, the number was staggering. I traced the gratitude timeline with my finger. First 6 months, frequent thanks. Months 6 through 12, less frequent. Year 2, appreciation became expectation. Year 3, criticism replaced gratitude. The last 6 months, not a single thank you. At 10 sharp, a white van pulled up. Sacramento lock and key logo on the side. Ted introduced himself, carrying a toolbox and looking professional. You want complete replacement, not rekeying? That's more expensive. I want new hardware, everything new. He whistled softly. Somebody you don't trust with a key? Something like that. Say no more. I see this a lot. Divorce? Family, which is worse. He worked efficiently. 45 minutes for all 3 doors. I watched each old lock come off, each new one go on. Symbolic rebirth. The new keys were shiny brass, unused. Only I would have copies. At 11, my phone rang. Amanda's name on screen. I considered not answering. Let it ring once, twice, 3 times. Answered. Dad, please, let us come back. We have nowhere to go. Her voice was raw, exhausted, desperate. I kept mine measured. Where did you spend last night? Hesitation, shame in the silence. In the car. Walmart parking lot, on Florin Road. I felt it then, a sharp pang of guilt. My daughter slept in a car on Christmas night, but then I heard Michael's voice in my memory. Be grateful we tolerate you. That's unfortunate. What's your plan now? We don't have money for a hotel. Michael's credit cards are maxed. I have $200. She was giving me every piece of information designed to trigger sympathy. I recognized the manipulation even as I felt its pull. We made a mistake. People make mistakes. 3 years of mistakes, Amanda. I'm done funding them. Think about Jenny. She's 15. I'm thinking about Jenny. I'm thinking about what lesson you're teaching her. What are we supposed to do? Her voice rose to a wail. What you should have done months ago. Find jobs. Find housing. Be adults. I hung up. My hand shook slightly, the first real sign of emotional cost. I set the phone face down on the table. Finality in that simple motion. I needed to talk to someone. I called Harold Patterson, my neighbor 3 houses down. Retired real estate attorney. We'd played chess every Thursday for a decade. He arrived within 15 minutes, 2 coffee mugs in hand. We sat on my back porch. December morning sun was weak, but present. I saw the police car last night, he said. Figured you might need coffee and conversation. You're a good friend, Harold. 20 years of chess matches. I know when you need an opening gambit and when you need an endgame strategy. This feels like endgame. I recounted everything. Christmas dinner, the insult, the eviction. Harold listened without interruption. A lawyer's habit? When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Waldo, you did everything right, legally and morally. Then why do I feel guilty? Because you're a good man. Good men feel guilt, even when they're justified. He set down his mug. But Waldo, be prepared. They're going to come at you. What do you mean? They'll try to sue, claim tenancy rights, maybe try for adverse possession, even though they have no case. On what grounds? Desperation. Michael's the type who needs to win, even when he's clearly wrong. Harold leaned forward. Do you have documentation? Proof you paid for everything? Every check, every receipt. I keep records. He smiled. Of course you do. You're an insurance man. You document everything. His expression turned serious. Get a lawyer. A good one. Not when they sue. Now. Be proactive. I know someone. Robert Morrison. We go back 20 years. Call him today. The sun warmed the porch. Harold's coffee mug sat on the table between us. My phone lay within reach. I picked it up, scrolled to contacts, found Morrison's name. My thumb hovered over it. The next phase was beginning. The week that followed moved like a chess game. Quiet moves, careful strategy. I spent my days in the reclaimed silence of my house, and my nights planning the next phase. On the 7th day after Christmas, I drove downtown to see Robert Morrison. Highway 99 south from Land Park, the familiar route I'd taken for 30 years. Exit at Capitol Mall, the Sacramento skyline rising ahead, the Capitol Dome gleaming even in January's gray light. I found parking in the garage at $3 an hour and walked 2 blocks to 505 feet of Capitol Mall. Morrison and Associates occupied the 15th floor. Modern glass high-rise, marble floors in the reception area, furniture that whispered expensive without shouting it. The receptionist smiled with recognition. Mr. Morrison is expecting you, Mr. Ross. Conference room B. I carried my leather document folder, heavy with papers, heavy with the weight of 3 years documented. Robert Morrison stood when I entered. 52, sharp dresser, reading glasses hanging from a chain. We'd known each other 20 years through insurance industry connections. He'd handled some contracts when I sold Ross Insurance Group, but we hadn't spoken in 2 or 3 years since the sale. Harold called me, said you had a family situation that might turn legal. I set the folder on the conference table. It already is legal. I evicted my daughter and son-in-law on Christmas night. Now I'm preparing for the retaliation. On Christmas, that's bold. Necessary. Robert reviewed the eviction details, nodding occasionally. You followed proper procedure. Police documentation helps tremendously. He paused. But they could claim constructive tenancy. 3 years of residency creates gray area. In California, if they contributed to household expenses or property upkeep, they might argue for tenant rights or even constructive possession. I slid the folder across his mahogany desk. They didn't contribute. I have proof. He opened it. Bank statements, canceled checks, email printouts, receipts. Everything organized with colored tabs. His eyebrows rose with each page he turned. March 2022. Bank statement. $45,000 check to Sterling Construction. Memo line reading, debt repayment. July 2022, $8,000 to Morrison and Associates. Robert looked up. I didn't realize you paid for Michael's bankruptcy filing. You handled it. I paid for it. He continued through monthly utility bills, all in my name, all charged to my credit card, grocery receipts spanning 3 years. Then he reached the emails. One from Amanda, November 2023, jumped out. Thanks for letting us stay in your house, Dad. We'll get back on our feet soon. Your house, Robert read aloud. She acknowledged ownership explicitly. She did. He leaned back, removed his reading glasses. Waldo, this is comprehensive. Most people don't keep records like this. I was in insurance for 35 years, Robert. Documentation was my job. Still, this level of detail suggests you were expecting this? Not expecting? Preparing? There's a difference. He studied me for a moment. With your resources, we can fight anything they throw at you. Though honestly, on a fixed pension... I'm not on a fixed pension, Robert. He paused. What? Ross Insurance Group. I sold it in 2020. You handled part of the transaction. I watched his memory engage. That sale was $2.3 million. You never told them? I wanted to see who they really were without money's influence. So you hid your wealth to protect them from greed, and they became greedy anyway? I managed a bitter smile. Ironic, isn't it? I watched families destroy each other over insurance money for decades. Thought I could prevent it in my own family. But you couldn't? No. I just learned the truth sooner. Robert shifted gears. Lawyer mode fully engaged. With these resources, we should file a civil suit first. Recover your $78,000. Control the narrative. No. Let them file first. I want them to hang themselves. That's risky. If they strike first, they will strike first. Michael's ego demands it, and when he does, I'll be ready. He considered this. My standard rate is $450 per hour. Litigation retainer is typically $15,000. I was already pulling out my checkbook. Draw up the agreement. I'll wire additional funds if needed. You're certain? Family lawsuits get ugly. It's already ugly, Robert. I'm just making sure I don't lose. I wrote the check without hesitation. $15,000. Neat handwriting. Tore it along the perforated line, slid it across the desk. The ease of the motion revealed what words couldn't. I'll prepare a comprehensive defense package, Robert said. Everything we need. I stood, gathering my folder. Also, prepare a civil complaint for the $78,000. Have it ready to file, but don't file yet. You really think they'll sue first? Michael Sterling doesn't know how to admit defeat. He'll sue, and when he does, we'll counterpunch. We shook hands, not the polite greeting from when I'd arrived, but the firm grip of equals, of partners in strategy. My hand was on the doorknob when Robert spoke again. Waldo, why wait a week to come see me? I turned back, looked over my shoulder. I wanted to give them time to make a mistake. Desperate people always do. I stepped into the hallway, elevator visible down the corridor, afternoon light streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. A man with a plan moving forward. January arrived cold and gray. I learned through Harold's connections that Michael and Amanda had found an apartment in Del Paso Heights, a rough neighborhood, a world away from Land Park. I didn't seek this information, it simply arrived, the way news does in a city where people talk. 3 weeks into the new year, the envelope arrived. Late afternoon, a process server at my door. Official legal document, thick paper, formal language. Sterling Vas Ross, civil complaint. I called Harold immediately. Within 15 minutes, we sat on my back porch despite the cold. The chessboard between us held a game half finished from Thursday. We pushed the pieces aside to spread the legal papers. I read the claims and laughed. Not bitter laughter, genuine amusement at the audacity. This is serious, Waldo. They're actually suing you, claiming part ownership of your house. They're claiming I owe them for the privilege of living in my own home. Harold flipped through pages. They're citing adverse possession, constructive ownership through improvements. What improvements? Michael fixed a leaky faucet once. I bought the parts. My eyes caught the signature at the bottom. Linda Fitzgerald, attorney at law. I recognized the name immediately. Pulled out my laptop, searched California State Bar records, while Harold watched over my shoulder. Linda Fitzgerald, member since 2010, 127 cases on record, and 3 losses. Win rate approximately 19%. 80% loss rate? How is she still practicing? Because desperate people hire desperate lawyers, and desperate lawyers are cheap. $5,000 isn't cheap for people living in Del Paso Heights. No, which means they're betting everything on this lawsuit. They'll lose everything. Harold moved a knight on the chessboard, studying the position. They've made their opening move, aggressive but poorly planned. I countered with my bishop, a swift, confident placement. Every aggressive opening has a weakness. You wait for them to expose it. This isn't chess, Waldo. No, but the principle is the same. Patience defeats panic every time. I called Robert Morrison, put him on speaker so Harold could hear. Got the filing, Robert said. Linda Fitzgerald sent a courtesy copy. It's ambitious. That's generous. I'd call it delusional. Adverse possession requires 5 years minimum in California. They lived there 3. It's dead on arrival. When's the hearing? Judge Williams set it for February 12th. Preliminary hearing to determine merit. Harriet Williams, I know that name. Tough reputation. She doesn't tolerate frivolous claims. This should be quick. The weeks until the hearing crawled by with the same cold determination as January itself. I maintained my routine, chess with Harold, walks through Land Park, preparing for whatever came next. Amanda called once more. I let it go to voicemail. Dad, please drop this. We can work this out. Please. Her voice was broken, exhausted. I listened once, deleted it, felt nothing. February 12th arrived gray and cold. Sacramento County Superior Court, 729th Street, an imposing building downtown. Robert and I arrived at 8:45 for the 9 o'clock hearing. Security screening, metal detectors, elevator to the 4th floor, Department 42. The courtroom smelled of wood polish and old law books. California State seal above the bench. Judge Williams' nameplate gleaming brass. Michael and Amanda were already there with Linda Fitzgerald. First time I'd seen them since Christmas night. Michael wore a cheap suit, ill-fitting, probably borrowed. He hadn't shaved well. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. Amanda wore business casual from Target or Walmart, her hair less styled than I remembered, makeup minimal. Jenny sat between them, looking miserable. Linda Fitzgerald carried an overstuffed briefcase, papers threatening to spill out. She looked harried and unprepared. Michael saw me, his face flushed immediately, pale to pink to red to nearly purple, like watching a sunset reflected in anger. Amanda looked away, wouldn't meet my eyes. Jenny gave a small, sad wave. I nodded back. All rise. Department 42 now in session. Honorable Harriet Williams presiding. Judge Williams was an African-American woman in her 60s, gray hair in a professional bun, reading glasses on a chain. Her expression suggested she'd seen every type of foolishness courts could offer. She took the bench, reviewed the file briefly. I've reviewed the complaint and response. Let's get straight to it. Ms. Fitzgerald, your clients are claiming what, exactly? Linda stood, fumbling with papers. Your Honor, my clients resided at the defendant's property for 36 months. They established adverse possession through continuous occupancy. Adverse possession requires 5 years minimum in California. Your clients lived there 3 years. Explain the discrepancy. Well, Your Honor, there's also constructive ownership through improvements made to the property. What improvements? Documented how? My clients will testify to household repairs and general upkeep. Judge Williams cut her off. Testimony alone doesn't establish ownership, Ms. Fitzgerald. Do you have receipts, contractor invoices, bank statements showing these improvements? Testimonial evidence should be sufficient to establish. Not in my courtroom. Next argument. Robert Morrison stood, calm and prepared. Your Honor, I have comprehensive documentation. Bank statements showing Mr. Ross paid every household expense for 36 months. He slid exhibits across to the clerk. Additionally, email evidence from November 2023, where plaintiff Amanda Ross Sterling explicitly acknowledged this as Dad's house. Her words. He connected his laptop to the courtroom projector. Amanda's email appeared on screen, visible to everyone. Thanks for letting us stay in your house, Dad. Michael's purple face deepened. Like an overcooked beet, I thought. Judge Williams reviewed the document silently for 2 full minutes. Then she removed her reading glasses. I've seen enough. Ms. Fitzgerald, your clients have no case. Adverse possession requires 5 years. No lease existed. No rent was paid. No ownership was established. This is clearly a family dispute, not a property claim. Motion to dismiss, granted. Case dismissed, with prejudice. Linda tried once more. Your Honor, if we could have an extension to gather additional... No. With prejudice means final, Ms. Fitzgerald. Michael half rose from his seat. This is... Judge Williams' voice sharpened like a blade. Sit down, Mr. Sterling. You're fortunate I'm not sanctioning your attorney for wasting court time. All rise. The judge exited. The hearing had lasted less than 15 minutes. In the marble corridor outside, Michael was shaking with rage. He turned toward me, started forward. Robert stepped between us. Don't. You're already on thin ice, Mr. Sterling. You'll regret this, old man. This isn't over. Several people in the corridor turned to look. Amanda pulled Michael's arm. Michael, stop. Let's just go. Please. Linda Fitzgerald scurried away without speaking to her clients, knowing she'd failed them completely. I stood calm, watching Michael's meltdown with the detachment of someone observing a chemical reaction. Predictable, inevitable, complete. I watched my son-in-law disintegrate in a courthouse hallway, purple-faced and impotent, and felt something I hadn't expected. Not triumph, not even satisfaction, just cold certainty that this was far from over. My hand slipped into my coat pocket, fingers touching the folder Robert had given me earlier. The one marked, Phase 2, Civil Recovery Complaint, $78,000. The counterpunch was ready. The weeks following the courthouse dismissal passed with deceptive calm. Michael and Amanda vanished from my radar, licking their wounds in Del Paso Heights. But I wasn't idle. Victory in court was one thing, justice was another, and justice required deeper digging. In early March, I made a phone call I'd been planning since Christmas night. I'd spent 35 years in insurance. I knew how fraud worked, and I knew Michael. Court victory stopped their claim, but didn't recover my losses. Michael was judgment-proof, no assets, no income, already drowning in debt. A A civil suit might win me a judgment I'd never collect, but if I couldn't get money back, I could ensure consequences found him. I called Thomas Richardson, former colleague from the insurance industry. He worked for California Department of Insurance, Fraud Investigation Division. We hadn't spoken in 18 months, but maintained cordial professional ties. Thomas, it's Waldo Ross. How's retirement treating you? Still a year away, Waldo. Counting down. Let me buy you lunch then, before you escape. The firehouse work for you? Haven't been there in months? Tuesday? Perfect. Noon. Tuesday arrived cold and clear. The firehouse sat at 1114 2nd Street, downtown Sacramento, upscale enough for professional lunches. I arrived first, always did, control tactic, and secured a quiet corner table. Thomas arrived at noon, sharp. 58, gray hair, bureaucrat's careful manner. We covered weather, mutual acquaintances, his approaching retirement. I waited until after entrees arrived to mention Sterling Construction. Cut my steak, took a bite, chewed, swallowed, then reached for my water glass. Remember that construction company that went under few years back? Sterling Construction? Thomas paused mid-bite, thinking, Sterling? Yeah, that rings a bell. We had some complaints on them. Complaints? What kind? Insurance fraud allegations, inflated damage claims. We started investigating, but the company went bankrupt before we could build a case. So the investigation just stopped. Usually does when there's no business entity. We moved to active cases. The seed was planted. Investigation abandoned, not resolved. After lunch, I returned home and began researching. Sacramento County business records, bankruptcy filings, all public information. Found Kevin Torres listed as 25% partner in Sterling Construction, LLC. Further digging, Kevin now worked as foreman at Davidson Brothers Construction. I called Davidson Brothers, said I was an old friend of the family, got Kevin's cell number from a helpful receptionist. That evening, I made the call. Kevin Torres? My name is Waldo Ross. I'm Michael Sterling's former father-in-law. His response was immediate, bitter. Former? Good for you. That guy's a snake. The venom in his voice was promising. That's becoming clear. I paid $45,000 to save Sterling Construction, learning it wasn't worth saving. 45 grand? Man, you got played. That company was rotten from the start. Kevin's story poured out. Sterling Construction had done commercial renovations. 2019 project, warehouse renovation. During construction, section of roof, accidentally damaged. Michael filed insurance claim for $120,000, repairs and business interruption. Insurance paid out. Actual repair cost, $40,000. Michael pocketed the $80,000 difference. I confronted him. He said it was creative accounting. I said it was fraud. What did you call it after he forced you out? Theft. But my lawyer said proving it would cost more than I'd win. I kept the documents anyway, out of spite. Do you still have them? Original invoices, claim forms? Every single page. What if those documents reach the Department of Insurance? Pause. Then, would they actually investigate? With solid evidence and credible witness? Yes. Where do I send them? I'd love to nail that bastard. I gave him Robert Morrison's office address. A week later, Robert called. Got a package from Kevin Torres. Insurance claim forms, repair invoices, email chain. This is damning, Waldo. Clear insurance fraud. $80,000 discrepancy. Can you forward it to the department? Anonymously. I can file as concerned party. Won't include names unless they need witness testimony. Do it. This could mean criminal charges. Good. While researching Michael's business records, I'd noticed something else. IRS filed lien against Michael Sterling personally. $23,000 in unpaid payroll taxes from 2021. Lien still active. Debt unpaid. I called Robert. Did you know Michael owes the IRS $23,000? No, but that's public record. Why? Because the IRS doesn't forget, and they're harder to run from than family. 2 weeks after Robert submitted the complaint, confirmation arrived. California Department of Insurance opened formal investigation. Case, Demer 2025, SAC, 1847. Michael would be contacted for interview. If evidence held, potential criminal referral to Sacramento County District Attorney. I received this news while playing chess with Harold on my back porch. March, sunshine weak but warming. Harold moved his knight. You're enjoying this, watching him squirm. I'm ensuring justice is served. There's a difference. Is there? Seems like revenge to me. I studied the board, selected my bishop, moved it diagonally across in one smooth motion, lifted Harold's queen, set it aside among captured pieces. Call it what you want. By the time he realizes what's happening, it'll be too late. Harold stared at the board. I didn't see that move coming. That's the point of a long game, Harold. My hand rested on the captured queen, smooth wood warm from afternoon sun. Government machinery engaged now, wheels turning beyond my control. I imagined Michael receiving that letter from the Department of Insurance, the panic blooming in his chest as his past caught up to his present. The queen sat silent in my palm. Power taken, game progressing exactly as planned. April arrived with the kind of rain Northern California does best. Relentless, gray, miserable. Perfect weather for miserable news. The investigation into Michael's insurance fraud moved with bureaucratic slowness, but its effects rippled faster than I'd anticipated. I learned about the collapse secondhand, the way you always learn the best gossip, through people who can't wait to tell you. First call came from an acquaintance in the construction industry. Waldo, thought you'd want to know. Word's out about Sterling. Department of Insurance investigation for insurance fraud. I hadn't heard. When did this become public? Last week. Sacramento construction community is small. Guy I know was giving Sterling cash work. Fired him immediately. Liability concern? Nobody wants an active fraud investigation on their site. Too much risk. Michael's under-the-table income vanished overnight. Harold mentioned seeing Amanda at her mailbox, looking distressed. Later that week, through Harold's neighborhood connections, I learned about the IRS letter. Official demand. $23,000 in unpaid payroll taxes, plus penalties totaling $4,800. $27,800 total. Payment deadline, 30 days or wage garnishment and asset seizure. They had nothing to seize, no wages to garnish. But the IRS didn't care. Debt remained, interest accrued. Early May, my phone rang. Jenny's name on screen. First time since the eviction. Grandpa, can we meet? I need to talk to someone normal. Of course, sweetheart. Where and when? Gunther's? Tomorrow afternoon? I can't be in that apartment anymore. I'll be there. 2 o'clock? Thank you. And Grandpa? I'm sorry. For everything. We met at Gunther's Ice Cream in Land Park. Outdoor tables. Spring trying to break through April's gloom. Jenny sat across from me with an untouched cone melting in her hand. I reached across, gently took it, set it aside, then took her hand. They fight every night. About money. About the investigation. About you. About me? Dad blames you for everything. Says you're rich and stingy. Mom finally yelled back that you gave us $45,000. Jenny's voice shook. Some government letter came. Mom read it and started screaming. I'd never heard her like that. What did she say? She screamed, "You stole $80,000. You committed fraud?" Dad said, "I did what I had to do." Mom said, "You destroyed us. My father threw us out because of your crimes." Dad said, "Your father could have helped us instead of keeping score." Mom said, "He gave us everything and you threw it in his face." First time Amanda assigned blame correctly. Not to me, but to Michael, Jenny continued. Creditors call constantly, sometimes 10 times a day. 6 different credit cards, all maxed. $35,000 total. They scream at each other until neighbors pound on the walls. Through Jenny's account, I assembled the picture. Amanda genuinely hadn't known about Michael's fraud. Her confrontation with him was real. Shock, betrayal, rage. But Michael deflected, still blamed me for not giving them more. The irony, he was right about my wealth, wrong about everything else. The Land Park community learned the full story through social media. Helen Martinez, Neighborhood Association president, posted on Facebook without naming names. Some people don't value kindness until it's gone. Seeing someone treat their elderly parent like a servant, then act shocked when there are consequences. That's not misfortune. That's karma. 140 likes, 50 comments. Several tagged it in ways that identified Amanda. She was still in the Land Park Facebook group. She saw it. Public shame in the community where she grew up. Jenny reported Amanda crying in the bathroom frequently. avoiding grocery stores where neighbors shopped, unfriending people on social media. Her support system, father, old friends, gone. Isolated, ashamed, trapped with a man she now resented. Early June, text from Jenny. They're getting divorced. Mom filed papers today. I don't know what happens to me. I'm scared. I called Robert Morrison. My daughter is divorcing Michael. Does that affect our strategy? You're going to sue her too? Your own daughter? I'm going to recover what's owed. She made her choices. Pause. All right, your call. Through Robert's connections, I learned the divorce details. Michael kept his 2008 Ford truck, worth $3,000, owing $5,000. Amanda kept her 2012 Honda, worth $4,000, owing $2,000. Credit card debt split 50-50, $17,500 each. IRS debt split, $13,900 each. Legal fees outstanding, $1,000 each. Each walked away with approximately $32,000 in debt, minimal assets. Neither had income to pay any of it. Bankruptcy looming for both. Harold and I sat on my back porch one evening watching the late spring sunset. You've destroyed them financially, both of them. I've done nothing. Michael destroyed himself. And Amanda? She's your daughter. She chose him over me, chose silence over honesty, chose comfort over integrity. Can you live with that? I was quiet for a moment. Can I live with them treating me like a servant in my own home? Yes, I can live with justice. Through various sources, I had the complete picture. Michael, unemployed, under criminal investigation, divorced, $32,000 in debt, living in a studio apartment. Amanda, working part-time retail, divorced, $32,000 in debt, sharing an apartment with a coworker. Jenny, staying with Amanda, refusing to see Michael, emotionally traumatized. Both filed for bankruptcy in June, but bankruptcy wouldn't erase IRS debt or potential restitution from fraud conviction. Late June evening, email arrived from Robert Morrison. Subject line, DOI investigation update. Harold watched from behind my shoulder as I opened my laptop. The cursor hovered over the email. More bad news for them? Justice isn't bad news, Harold. It's just news. When does it end? My finger moved to the trackpad. When the scales balance. I clicked. The email began to load, text appearing line by line on screen. Harold leaned closer, reading. I felt the weight of what was coming. Criminal charges, restitution, the final phase of consequences Michael had earned through his own choices. The screen glowed in the dimming light, words forming the shape of what came next. July brought heat that turned Sacramento into an oven. The Department of Insurance investigation had concluded with criminal charges filed against Michael, 2 counts of insurance fraud. I learned this not from news, but from Robert Morrison's email, the one I'd opened at the end of June. The legal machinery was grinding Michael down with bureaucratic precision. I should have felt satisfied. Instead, I felt restless, like a chess player who'd won the game but found no opponent left to challenge. The knock on my front door came on a Wednesday afternoon, unexpected and somehow inevitable. I was home, windows open for cross breeze, ceiling fan rotating lazily overhead, not expecting anyone. Harold played chess on Thursdays, not Wednesdays. I opened the door to find Amanda standing on my porch, first time seeing her since the courthouse in February, 5 months ago. She looked older, thinner, hair pulled back plainly, cheap work clothes visible under a light jacket, retail uniform. Exhaustion lived in every line of her face. "Dad, can I come in? Please, just for a few minutes." I stepped aside without speaking. She entered slowly, looking around the house as if seeing it for the first time. Noticed things had changed. I'd redecorated slightly, made the space mine again. The absence of her family's belongings was evident in the empty corners, the rearranged furniture. We moved to the living room. I gestured to a chair, not the couch. Maintaining distance, sat across from her, waiting. The silence stretched. She struggled to begin. I didn't help, didn't make it easier. Finally, "Dad, I'm so sorry. For everything." She'd rehearsed this, but emotion broke through practiced words. "I was blind. Michael manipulated me, but that's not an excuse. I let him treat you terribly. I stayed silent when I should have spoken up." Her voice caught. "I chose comfort over integrity. I chose him over you. and I lost everything that mattered. I listened without interrupting. Part of me saw my little girl, the daughter I'd raised, now broken and seeking forgiveness. Another part remembered Christmas night, her silence at that table, years of being invisible in my own home, the pull of fatherhood versus the demand of justice. My hands gripped the chair arms, jaw tight. She continued, "I'm not asking you to take me back. I'm not asking for money or help. I have a job now. Retail, minimum wage, but it's mine. I'm figuring things out." She met my eyes. "I just needed you to know. I understand what I lost. I understand who you were trying to be for us. You gave us everything, and we threw it back at you." This clarity, this acknowledgement without asking for rescue, affected me more than tears would have. After she left, promising nothing, asking nothing, I called Harold. He came over immediately, found me on the back porch, staring at nothing. She apologized. She understands now. "What did you say to her?" "Nothing. I didn't know what to say." "Do you want to forgive her?" "I want to forgive her. But every time I start to soften, I remember the years, the silence, the contempt." Harold's wisdom settled over us like evening light. Forgiveness doesn't mean erasing consequences. She can be forgiven and still face what she's done. Over the next few days, my decision crystallized. I'd been holding the civil complaint since February. Robert had prepared it, never filed. Time to file. Not from revenge, but from justice. They'd taken from me financially and emotionally. They must repay what could be repaid. Forgiveness could coexist with accountability. I called Robert Morrison. "File the complaint. $78,000 against both of them, jointly and severally." "You're certain?" After Amanda's apology. "Because of it. She understands consequences now. This is part of those consequences." Robert filed in Sacramento County Superior Court. Claim $78,000 in documented loans and expenses. Both Michael and Amanda would be served with summons. Court date set for late August. Final hearing in September. Week after filing, I called Amanda. We met at Pete's Coffee downtown. I slid a folder across the table. I filed a civil suit, $78,000 for documented expenses over 3 years. Her face, shock, hurt, betrayal. "But I apologized. I thought—" "I know, and I heard you. But apologies don't erase debt. You and Michael took from me. Now you repay. We don't have that money. We're bankrupt. The court will establish a payment plan. You'll pay what you can afford." Michael's meeting was different. He came to my house with Linda Fitzgerald, still his lawyer despite her failures. Robert Morrison sat beside me. I presented the same information. Michael exploded. "You can't do this. Those were gifts. Family helping family." Robert, calm and professional. "We have emails where you promised to pay back when you got on your feet. That's a loan, not a gift. This is ridiculous. You're rich. You don't need the money. What I have is irrelevant. What you owe is documented. We'll fight this. You'll lose, again. But that's your choice." That evening, Amanda called. Her voice was tear-strained but clearer. "Dad, I don't have the money, but I understand why you're doing this. You're teaching me something I should have learned years ago. Actions have consequences. I'll pay. However long it takes, it's what I owe." This response, acceptance rather than rage, showed her growth. She was learning. I could forgive someone who accepted consequences. Alone that night in my study, I looked at Amanda's childhood photos on the shelf. Hadn't looked at them in months. Realized punishment served justice, but accountability could serve redemption. The $78,000 might take years to repay, but the process taught the lesson. Harold's voice in my head. Forgiveness doesn't mean erasing consequences. My own thought added, but consequences can teach what forgiveness alone cannot. The notice arrived in late August. Final hearing scheduled September 15th, 2025, 9 a.m., Judge Harriet Williams presiding. I set it on my desk, next to the chess set where Harold and I had left a game unfinished. Picked up the white queen piece, examined it. Harold's voice from the doorway startled me. "Ready for endgame?" I didn't turn around. "It's not about winning anymore, Harold. It's about finishing well." I set the queen back on the board, fingers resting on the smooth wood, feeling the weight of what came next. September 15th arrived with the kind of clarity Northern California reserves for autumn. Sharp air, golden light. The sense of things ending and beginning simultaneously. I dressed carefully that morning, not for vanity, but for ritual. The navy suit I'd worn to close the sale of Ross Insurance Group 5 years earlier. The watch my late wife had given me for our 20th anniversary. The cufflinks that had belonged to my father. Armor made of memories. By 8:30, Robert Morrison's Mercedes was in my driveway. We drove to Sacramento County Superior Court, 729th Street. Same building as February's dismissal, different department, Department 28, Civil Division. Same security screening, same elevators, but different feeling. This time I wasn't defending. I was seeking justice. Amanda sat alone on a hallway bench, retail uniform under her jacket. Michael stood separately with Linda Fitzgerald, looking defeated. Jenny offered me a small wave. I nodded back. All rise. Department 28 now in session. Honorable Harriet Williams presiding. Judge Williams entered, took the bench, reviewed the file. Recognition crossed her face. Mr. Ross, Mr. Sterling, Ms. Ross Sterling. We meet again, this time for civil recovery. Her tone carried wry weariness. She'd presided over our family's destruction. I've reviewed the evidence. Let's proceed efficiently. I believe we all want closure. Robert Morrison presented methodically. Bank statements, canceled checks, receipts, emails. Timeline, March 2022 through December 2024. Total documented $78,000. Amanda's email projected again. Thanks for letting us stay in your house. Michael's text. We'll pay you back within 2 years. Linda Fitzgerald had nothing to rebut. Before ruling, Judge Williams said, I understand that there's a related criminal case? Linda stood. Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Sterling has accepted a plea agreement. 2 years probation, community service, restitution to the insurance company. $80,000? Yes, Your Honor. Relevant to his ability to pay in this matter. Judge Williams removed her reading glasses, looked directly at the defendants. You lived in Mr. Ross's home for 3 years, paid no rent, contributed nothing to household expenses, promised repayment. The evidence is overwhelming. She paused. Judgment for plaintiff in the amount of $78,000. However, you're both judgment-proof. Bankruptcy filings, no assets, minimal income. Payment terms, $500 per month each, $1,000 total monthly until paid in full. That's 78 months, 6.5 years, plus court costs of $8,000, split between you, joint and several liability. If either defaults, the other remains liable for the full amount. Amanda accepted this with bowed head. Michael started to object, but Linda touched his arm, and he subsided. Jenny's relief was visible. Mr. Ross, you've been patient and thorough. Justice is served. Judge Williams looked at the defendants. Use this time to rebuild. 6 years is opportunity for change. In the corridor afterward, Michael walked away immediately, hunched and broken. Amanda hesitated, then approached with Jenny beside her. Robert stepped aside, giving us space. Dad, I deserve this. We both did. All of it. Her voice was steady, no tears left. You taught me something I couldn't learn any other way. I didn't value what I had. I took you for granted. This judgment, the payments, the years, that's fair. That's justice. It's not about punishment, Amanda. It's about accountability. I know that now. I was a terrible daughter. But maybe I can be better, starting now. Michael stood by the elevator. He turned, took 2 steps closer, mumbled, Sorry for everything. But his eyes were down, voice flat, no real remorse, just going through motions. He entered the elevator. Doors closed. Last sight of him. Jenny stepped forward, hugged me. First physical contact in 9 months. Grandpa, I understand why you did this. All of it. Thank you for showing me what standing up for yourself looks like. I held her. You can always visit me, Jenny. To Amanda. With your permission. Of course. You're her grandfather. She needs you. First acknowledgement of potential reconciliation. I forgive you, I told Amanda. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. Trust is rebuilt over years, not moments. You'll make your payments. You'll live your life. And we'll see who you become. That's fair. That's more than fair. When you're ready, when you've shown you've changed, we'll talk. Really talk. I'll be ready, however long it takes. We didn't embrace, Not yet. But there was understanding between us. Robert drove me home. We were quiet until he said, "You did what you set out to do." Did I? I'm not sure what I set out to do anymore. You got justice, your home back, your dignity. I got accountability. Whether that's justice, time will tell. We arrived at 2847 Maple Grove Drive. I looked at my house. It was completely mine again. That evening, Harold came over for chess. We sat on the back porch in golden September light, mint tea steaming between us. The game was nearly over. I had clear advantage. Did you get what you wanted? I considered. I got my peace back, my home, my dignity, and they got a lesson they'll remember for the rest of their lives. 6.5 years of payments. That's a long lesson. Some lessons take time to learn properly. And Amanda, do you think she's really changed? I think she's starting to. Whether she finishes that change, that's up to her. So what did you learn from all this? I moved my bishop across the board. That the best revenge isn't destroying someone. It's showing them the truth about themselves. Michael saw his fraud, his manipulation, his refusal to take responsibility. Amanda saw her complicity, her silence, her choice to enable him, and I saw that I'm stronger than I thought, and more alone than I'd like. But not completely alone. I looked at my old friend. No, not completely. I moved my final piece. Checkmate. Harold studied the board, nodded appreciation. I didn't see that coming. Very long game. The longest games teach the most. We sat in comfortable silence, evening cooling around us. Light from my house spilled onto the porch. Inside, my home, my space, my peace. Outside, the neighborhood where I'd lived for 27 years. Everything the same. Everything different. I picked up my teacup, took a sip of mint tea, and watched the sun set on a day that felt like both ending and beginning. The game was over. I had won. But more importantly, I had survived with my integrity intact. That, I decided, was the real victory. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.